On this episode of ResiWeek, Nortek has been purchased by a British VC firm. Screen Innovations is going after the commercial market as well as residential, and is control and automation for RVs a good market to be in. All that and more next on ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 23, recorded Tuesday, July 12th, 2016. Tailgate in style. ResiWeek is brought to you by our fine group of underwriters, companies like Draper.
Hey, welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. Harry, stop smirking. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott, for AVNation.tv. Thanks for joining us. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First of all, Harry Meade. He is a freelance system engineer and system programmer, and also in search of a real commercial job. Hi, Harry.
Hello. Yes, freelance is code for unemployed.
But as we see, you will engineer for food, so yeah, let's do that. And secondly, I'm joined by my friend, my sort of kind of boss, maybe.
Oh, you don't have a boss. Let's be honest.
But let's be nice and pretend that
okay.
you are.
And one thing I'll say to Harry, yeah, my name is Tim. Is in when I was in radio.
Is it you taking over my show?
Slightly. We used to call it being on the beach. So just refer to that. You're on the beach.
I'm on the beach today. On the beach. But anyways, that's Tim. He's the president and founder of AVNation, this good old thing that has brought us all together. So now that the warm and fuzzies are over, let's jump right in to our first story. This kind of made fairly big news late last week. Nortek, it was sold again. This time to a British investment company called Melrose. And the key to this story for me, this is on strategy from our good friend Ted Green. The key to this story and the line that got me was Melrose is an investment company that buys underperforming companies, improves their operations, and then resells them. They bought Nortek for $86 a share, 38% over the closing price back on July 5th. Tim, you and I have talked about acquisitions, and this has been all the rage, probably the last year, really, in both the commercial and the residential world. This isn't an acquisition by a competitor or another company that is really active in the AV industry. This is another acquisition by really a VC firm. What does this mean to the industry, and kind of by extension, what does it mean to Nortek? What does this do to their brands?
I'm totally going to steal something that Josh Rago said on AV Week last week when we talked about a couple other acquisitions, again, by venture capital firms, by investment firms. This is the AV industry growing up and realizing that, oh yeah, we're part of the IT industry. The reason he said that is because the IT industry has acquisitions from VC capital all the time, where they'll purchase this company, they'll purchase that company, and you'll read about the big ones, right? Where Facebook bought Instagram, right, for some ungodly amount of number, or Snapchat is being valued at again billions of dollars. They're not selling, but these are the high profile ones. The lower profile ones you probably won't hear about because they're VC firms that are picking up companies to make money. That's what these folks do. They're groups of folks who put their money into basically a company for the sole purpose of investing in other companies better, making them better, turning them around, and selling them off, and they'll make a profit. The AV industry has now become part of the IT industry where this is commonplace. For us, this hasn't been commonplace. So again, back to Josh's point, that's just another step in us becoming part of the IT industry. For Nortek specifically, it's very interesting because I was not under the impression that Nortek was doing poorly. You mentioned the fact that they gave a 38% premium over the closing price.
And that's a high closing price in general.
Yeah, $86.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. No, so Melrose seems to think that their problems probably aren't so insurmountable that the company's doomed. Their slogan, Melrose's slogan, is buy, improve, sell. So we all know what's going to happen. We all know the kind of the trail that Melrose is going to go down. They're going to improve some things. They're probably going to cut some staff. They're going to try to streamline their operations, and then they're going to turn around and sell them. But the end of that story, though, is going to be interesting. Is the interesting part is who they're going to sell it to.
Well, of course, but part of my question is, when they say that they're going to improve operations and cut staff, what does
They
that
didn't
mean?
say that.
No, but come on. When they say that they buy, they improve, and then they sell.
Yeah,
You
people
don't
are going to lose their jobs.
improve with lofty goals and hugs. You improve by cutting dead weight and increasing productivity. So, Harry, what is this going to do to dealers? And this is a question I've had for all of these acquisitions where a VC is involved. Most often, when you follow the tech world and a VC comes in and buys a company, they either strip it down and sell the parts. So in this case, selling off Speakercraft or whoever of whatever brand of Nortek they want to that they view as most profitable, or they're slashing within the offices. Is this something that dealers are going to see? Is this something that's going to affect dealers? Is this something where you're going to see, half the dealer base obliterate, just completely destroyed?
It kind of reminds me a little bit of when AMX first got into this VC game, those many years ago. And yeah, it did affect the dealer base. Because suddenly they wanted to cut down on dealer.
Yeah.
They wanted to get rid of the little guys that only bought a few pieces in favor of all of the big guys that were selling most of their money or selling most of their product. And I was working for one of those little guys, and they started putting in all kinds of onerous stuff of you have to pay for a yearly fee in order to get tech support.
$1,000.
You have to sell if you sell a certain amount, you don't have to pay the $1,000. But the certain amount was like half our gross revenue. And half our gross revenue was and that was another thing that kind of going off slightly into a tangent on dealer side. We would have people come in, manufacturers come in and say, "Hey, we'd really like to see you guys bump like 25% on our numbers." And we're like, "Okay, well that's cool. You make switchers, so that means that we have to bump our entire gross revenue 25% in order to get you a 25% up, because we can't put two switchers in a system just because." And
just build it in as redundancy.
Redundancy, Harry. Yeah.
Yeah, that flies. But yeah. So going back to the AMX side of things. So yeah, it did hurt dealers some. You got. We were lucky enough that we managed to keep most of our inside sales guys that we talked to.
Mm-hmm.
They stayed there and we talked to them still. But there was definitely changes. There was definitely things that did not bode well for small dealers. And it all depends on what the VC's definition of small dealer is.
Well, and real quickly, back to Harry's point about what AMX was trying to do way back in the day with the basically it was a tech plan or it was, I guess their idea early on with service plans. It was $1,000 a year for integrators who didn't meet a certain level. It was $1,000 a year for technology managers, because this was back when I was a technology manager still for college. We had a handful of AMX products, and if we wanted any sort of tech support, we had to pay a $1,000 fee a year. One word of warning to Nortek or to Melrose, AMX's biggest competitors used that very thing as one of the sticking points and one of the selling points against them. And it worked.
Well, and the only thing I'll say to that, though, is as much as I don't like that concept of paying to play, I like that concept a whole lot more than just being flat out told you can't have something. You can't have access to something. Because, and I've railed on this since the day you've met me, probably, Tim.
Most likely.
Because of where I am geographically, we're stuck with a lot of situations where we can't get product because so-and-so has it. Or
for clarification,
territorial.
For clarification, you're in Canada and you're in London, Ontario.
Yeah, thanks.
No, I'm just. I didn't want people to think you're, in somewhere normal.
And his
I said normal,
address
but
is
wow.
I said normal. I didn't mean to say normal, but
you totally did. You meant to say so.
You were somewhere in the U.S. You're not. You are a Canadian property, and most companies treat you as international.
Yes, that's very true. But it's and this is something that I'm in the middle of a blog on. I had a meeting with a rep for one of our main lines just last week, and sat down and had this whole conversation with my new rep, which was the 4th rep in the last 2 years, which is always fun. Just talking about how we're not selling enough and we need to sell more and more and more and more and more. And I'm like, that's fine, but we're selling what we're selling because that's what our clients are asking for right now. And the response was, well, if you don't sell some more, we might have to cut you. And it was that conversation of, okay, so let me get this straight. You're wanting to cut us because we're not selling enough based on your records. When we've had last year one of our best years selling your product ever. But now all of a sudden we're not meeting whatever stipulation you think we should have. This goes part and parcel with the Nortek deal of, you'll see, and again, this is all kind of conjecture and speculation, but theoretically, if they do what normally happens in these situations, you're going to have a lot of, speakercraft dealers that all of a sudden can't sell speakercraft anymore. You're going to have Niles dealers or lawn dealers that all of a sudden won't have that product line, and they'll be, rushing to find something else, and Jeremy will get a bunch of his dealers back. But moving on, and this is something that we don't have an article for, but I just wanted to touch on it real briefly, because I know you talked about it on AV Week on Friday, but Avid was just sold again from Ingram Micro to a Chinese powerhouse that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. Did you get it right for AV Week, Tim?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. This is another, in my opinion, especially for the resi world, this has much greater implications in the residential world than it does in the commercial AV world. I'm very intrigued to see what happens. I know, again, being in Canada, we've dealt with Avid for years, but the way Avid was in Canada was different than it was in the U.S. And especially once it got bought by Ingram, things changed again. I'm very intrigued to see what happens in that realm. So that's something to watch. But moving on, now that we've talked about buying things, let's talk about one of my favorite things, which is college football. You want to know how we're talking about college football? Well, CE Pro has a wonderful article about motorhomes and RVs being an untapped market for home automation. And throughout this article, they're talking about a Control4 system and a bunch of stuff that turns this otherwise pedestrian six-figure motorhome into a fantastic tailgate party zone. Outside of the fact that it's Auburn, I'd be all over this. Harry, and I know you're kind of new to the resi world the last couple of years as you've been moonlighting and doing some freelance stuff. This article really caught my attention because even though I'm in Canada, we're really big proponents of Michigan football here. Big Ten football is kind of a huge deal. And I've been to both Michigan State and University of Michigan, and they tailgate fairly well. It's pretty serious stuff. Not that this is just for tailgating, but do you see some validity to this statement that integrators can kind of tap this, just like some of the boating communities are tapped for integrators who can kind of specialize in yachting and marine installations? Is this one of those things that people have kind of just overlooked?
It's possible. I have my reservations about like an RV type situation.
Is that just because the Go RVing commercials aren't pulling you in?
No, although that's not helping. No, but what my reservations about it are, it's going over the road, first of all. So from a dealer perspective, these guys are going to be driving on roads and driving over gravel and driving over everything else, and stuff's going to get jostled around and beat up, even if it's inside the RV. So to me, that might increase service calls, and with the more 24/7 nature of Resi, then you've got service calls out. Like, I'm in Yellowstone and my system doesn't work.
Yeah, but hold on though. Is that a bad thing? Like, and keep in mind, just like a marine installation, most owners have an idea what they're getting into when they're spending significant income or disposable income on an AV system for their yacht or their motorhome. Tim, is that a big enough drawback to hinder a residential firm jumping into this market?
You made a really good analogy there, and a really good equation between marine and RV.
That's because I'm smart.
That's because you're smart, yes. Because up until that time, I was kind of like, okay,
it's my show. I can pretend I'm smart.
Absolutely,
it's okay.
It's and that's fine. With the exception of a handful of folks, and I don't know the percentage, so don't yell at me. Most people don't live on their yachts, right? The yacht is a luxury vehicle. It's expendable income. Same with RVs, right? Most people don't live in RVs. Yes, there are some people who do, but it is something. It's a luxury item for a lot of folks, and so that's a really good equation between the marine market and the RV market. I think using that equation, though, I would say it's a pretty decent market for it, and I don't know that. Harry's analogy aside, I don't think that they're necessarily going to be expecting you to support it in Yellowstone, right? Just like you wouldn't expect support in the middle of the Atlantic if you were taking your yacht from one place to another.
Well, you just got to make sure your service contract is on point.
Well, yeah.
First class flights, helicopter to the boat or to the bus, See, I guess my only concern with it from a business model standpoint is, even when you look at the luxury home market, for my local region here, if you wanted to say that the entry point to that was $1 million plus, that percentage of homes across the board is still going to be maybe the 10 to 15% of homes are going to be at least $1 million plus. So they would be in that luxury segment. Now, you still have to sell whatever percentage of that segment you want for it to be an affordable business model for you. But when I think of RVs, I think of one or two things. I think of somebody who has a really, really old one that's rusting away, and they take it to little campgrounds and stuff, which, hey, whatever makes you happy. And then I think of a couple people who have luxury liners like this one. That they're showing, but that's a handful of people, and our city's 400,000. I would have to say, and I probably should call one of our local RV dealers just out of curiosity now, but I'd have to say that there's maybe 100 of them in our entire region, whether they're luxury or not. It becomes a really, really small market unless you're in an area or a city where this would be predominantly used, I don't see. I just don't see the dollars of sense of focusing marketing dollars, if you will. Although, you put one in your local RV showroom, outfit one up for them,
Partner with them.
Yep. It could be a very, very nice little, side vertical for you. But it's interesting.
One thing, real quick, one of my early on restaurant classes I was in for programming. I was in with a gentleman that was their entire business. Their entire business model was marine. And I found it fascinating. I sat right next to the guy, and every story he would tell about this and just the things that you have to do, the same limitations and some of the same customization you would have to do in the RV and the camper market, whether it's finding unique places for racks or finding unique places for equipment, maybe not even having the room for racks themselves. And this actually goes back to huddle spaces and flex rooms, where there's a lot of products that are being built for those spaces, whether it's behind the display rack installation kits or other ways to hide equipment without the ever-present rack somewhere. The same thing with this market as well. You would have to find places to hide equipment and place them in unique places.
Well, again, that just hits back to the whole before you start jumping down this road of all these cool little niche markets to get into. It's not something you can just jump into. There's a lot of thought. By extension, I've got a client a commercial client, and they own a jet. And yeah, it's really cool. But having conversations with their VP on things they have to do when they're looking at adding something new to the jet interior, not avionics, but like new pillows. They can't just theoretically put a throw pillow on the plane, because it has to. There's
weight limitations and stuff.
Yeah, just all kinds of weird little things that there's FAA regulations on everything inside a plane.
It could become a projectile very easily.
Yeah. It's just and I when they upgraded a couple years ago. And I asked him about the different, if they put tech in and all this other stuff, just because I'm curious. And he's like, no, it came with this, and this. But the cost to add an additional flat screen, like a 27-inch flat screen, was like $40,000.
Holy cow.
Because you're ripping part of the interior apart to wire to that point, to tie it. Like it just, now, until you start talking planes and RVs and boats, that's a whole different dollars and cents point of view.
Yeah.
Like when you look at this photo, a lot of this stuff is sitting in. None of it seems to be inside the RV, right? It's all housed in the storage units below. That changes things. When you start getting into the interiors of stuff like this, it gets quite expensive. And again, cool stuff, but just. Yeah. You got to plan that. You got to plan those expenses out.
Yeah, and the way that RVs are put together, everything has a little. They've already taken a lot of the little spaces that that you can use for stuff. So there's going to be a very limited space of being able where you can put stuff.
But if you are an integrator who's working in RVs, drop us a line or something, because I find it very fascinating. It'd be very cool stuff. Yeah. But moving on, otherwise we'll talk about buses and boats and planes all day. This comes to us from Residential Systems. It's about a line that's quite, I don't want to say dominant, but one of the big players in projection surfaces. Screen Innovations is moving out and reaching out to the commercial market. Most people know SI specifically from their Black Diamond products and their black projection surfaces, which as a dealer, full disclosure, I can say they're fantastic and you should buy some. Harry, as somebody who normally specializes in commercial markets, what does this mean to you? Is this just another screen manufacturer jumping and starting to spend more advertising dollars and more time focused on the commercial market, or is this fitting a niche that maybe wasn't already serviced very well?
I think in some ways it definitely services a niche that isn't being serviced by the big two right now as much.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I've seen them every year at Infocom, and so I'm kind of curious how much more they're going to spend on commercial, because they have a pretty decent sized booth normally at Infocom. They were right down the street from Daylight this past year, if I remember correctly. So, but yeah, I like their stuff. I haven't had a chance to really put it in anything yet. Maybe in the next company, harry.l.meade@gmail.com. I'll get a chance to use it and see what we can come up with.
Tim, obviously they have the full plethora of options from white to gray to black to slate to black diamond. They've also got some cool stuff that the big guys maybe don't have or definitely don't focus on as much, like their black diamond film, which we've personally spec'd this a couple of times into some of our projects, and it's like a window tint that you put on your car, and you apply it over any sort of glass or plexiglass surface, whether it's curved or straight, flat, whatever, and it gives you a full-on, reasonably high-quality gain screen upon a glass surface that then can be, tinted to match, and it can essentially become like a seamless product that lets you project onto glass. Is that more what you see, commercial dealers or standard commercial guys looking at them for as a standard, or I'm sorry, not a standard, but a unique application approach? Because I don't think black screens are going to make a huge dent into the corporate boardroom market.
Not necessarily, but it's the unique. I mean, the picture that they have in residential systems is a game show, right, with a curved screen, and it's those installations. Harry mentioned Daylight and Draper. I see
my name. I was being nice.
No, I don't. They're both underwriters. I'll mention them both. I don't see them going after them. I see them going after our Stewart's film screen, right?
Yeah.
Stewart Film Screen has got the higher end commercial curved screens and the glass and this, that, and the other actual glass you can project on. I don't see Screen Innovations going after the education market. I see them going after the higher end bespoke screen market, where you have a custom installation, you have a custom situation, whether it's a talk show host or a talk show set or what have you, and going after that. They're in the residential market. SI screens are not cheap, by any stretch of the imagination. They are I would qualify them as a luxury screen option, or a high-end screen option.
They're definitely positioned as a luxury premium product,
and they do some cool things. I mean, the one of our friends here they've got, not here, but one of our friends in the industry has an SI that has the color changing edges, right? So as you're watching,
Black Diamond, zero edge, the LED kit,
and as you're watching a movie, the movie he showed me with was Iron Man, and when Iron Man comes on the screen, the edges go red. Right, and cool stuff like that, stuff that you don't necessarily need in a boardroom, but holy cow, would it be great for a marquee piece, whether it's the entranceway to your corporate offices, or it's a show set of some sort. I could see them going after that.
Yeah, it's an interesting move to continue to push into that market, but they really have. And they've had for a couple of years now some specific products that are, really not for the residential market. And, we've been a dealer for a couple of years, but watching them kind of progress into this has been quite big. Quite a big deal to see it happen like that. Moving on, and this will be our last story, then we'll wrap up real quick, and we'll try and find Harry a job. SecurityCEU.com is now offering its training coursework to CEDIA members. So they have been providing licensing and compliance, certification, and all that fun stuff to security, life safety, fire, all that fun stuff for quite a few years, and now it's available through CEDIA. So this is, I see this as nothing but a good thing, because we have more and more dealers that are, in the Resi world, that are expanding into and continue to add more and more security and IP video, and they're managing the networks and the like. This is something that's going to offer or just expand the education offerings that CEDIA has. I don't see any downside to this at all, other than some dealers may not take advantage of it. Harry, you like this? This make you happy? More learning?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the more learning you can get in, the better. And the fact that they're pairing through CEDIA is going to open up the Resi market to more certifications, more after learning, so to speak, and be able to get because the more educated all the dealers and everyone installing is, the better it goes. The better it is for everyone.
Well, and Tim, this is something that we've kind of watched as we continue to get more involved in the CEDIA channel from AVNation and whatnot. There definitely seems to be, I'm not sure if it's accurate, but there seems to be a perception that there are more required certifications from, say, Infocom than there are for the CEDIA channel. And again, I see this as just an extension of their commitment to educating their dealer base.
I would disagree with you a little bit. I don't think the certifications for Infocom are required.
There are these.
Yeah, they do a really good job of strongly encouraging you to get your CTS, get your CTSD, get your CTSI.
Well, and what I was getting at was that on most residential jobs that you come across or that you're bidding on, you don't need a certification for anything. Whereas there's a large swath of commercial projects that require certification.
They're getting the Apex certification in there as a requirement as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think one thing is as our AVNation's web architect is want to say, more security is never a bad thing, right?
Never.
So
Never.
As the industry and the FCC and the government decides what to do with security and what to do with net neutrality, having your home more secure is never a bad thing. So yeah, I think having residential folks learn about this, it wouldn't hurt some Infocom folks and the commercial folks to either take the class or have Infocom partner with these guys as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's all the stories that we have, unless you guys have something else. But I want to thank you both for being here. Tim, you were stuck with me anyways. But yes. Harry, thanks for jumping on last minute. I appreciate it. Just quick, we were supposed to have one of my other good friends, Stephen Bronner, was supposed to be on with us. Unfortunately, he lost his sister over the weekend. So thoughts and prayers out to him, and we'll get him on next week. But that's it. Harry, where can people find you, locate you online? Where can they send you job offers?
Well, as I told Tim on Friday, currently you can find me under the 2nd Street overpass with my sign.
Is that in Baltimore or DC?
This is Baltimore.
Okay.
Trying to stay a little centric. Yeah. Willing to commute to DC, but it takes a little while.
Understood.
No, I am on Twitter at AVGrump. I've been relatively quiet on Twitter recently, and it's been killing me, but I'm looking for a job, and I'm not dumb. If someone in the Baltimore, D.C. area needs a design engineer, usually on the commercial side, harry.l.meade@gmail.com.
That was a very nice Vanna hand. I liked it. Tim, thanks for being here. Thanks for producing and making me look good. Where can people find you? I know you hate to plug yourself, so
I do.
If you don't, I will.
I'll do it. Twitter, if you do the Twitter thing, it's TD Tim David Albright, ALBRIGHT, but also obviously AVNation.tv.
Definitely. And of course, myself, you can always find me online at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and pretty much every other social platform out there. But more importantly, please stop by the website, AVNation.tv, that Tim just kind of plugged for us. You'll find this show, past episodes of this show, as well as a host of other shows, because we got a lot. We cover a wide variety of topics and industry verticals, and you can learn an awful lot about watching our shows, especially when I'm not on them. You'll learn a ton. So please visit AVNation.tv. You can follow us on Twitter at AVNationTV. And that's all the time we have for this week in ResiWeek. See you next week.